Meet Leta Greene, whose journey from abuse to joy proves God's love transforms lives. At 9 years old, whispering, "Dear God," in the woods, Leta discovered she was seen and protected by a loving father. In this episode, she shares how one affirmation changed everything overnight, why the Book of Mormon became her shield against chaos, and the sacred moment God brought her husband back to life, leaving 15 doctors with medically proven evidence of a miracle. Welcome to the Why We Believe show, where members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints share their inspiring stories of faith and conversion to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm your host, Nathan Gwilliam. Hello, friends, and welcome to this episode of the Why We Believe show. Today, my guest is Leta Greene. Leta is a speaker by trade. She is an author who's written a couple of amazing books. One of them is called How to Embrace Your Inner Hotness. The other one is called Love Me Too. She's an award-winning speaker who shared the stage with world-class motivators and thought leaders. She's the host of popular events and podcasts that blend humor and heartfelt truths. And she's been featured at international conferences, faith-centered gatherings, and corporate events where she bridges self-development with spiritual growth. She talks a lot about confidence and self-worth, kindness and faith. She inspires her audiences to live joyfully, fearlessly, and true to who God has created them to be. Thank you so much for joining us today, Leta.
I am so excited to be on because I don't have to pick my words carefully to bring in. I can just talk to this audience that is interested in belief. I love it.
Yes, be you, share you. Can you start off by sharing with us something about you that most people don't know?
Oh, well, I'm pretty open on Facebook, but I think a lot of people find it really funny that I am a trucker's daughter because I've made my living for almost 30 years in the beauty industry. And you wouldn't necessarily think that truck stops would lend to that. And as a speaker for the last 16 years. So I think it's kind of fun that I've lived all over. I've been all over and happy to be living in Utah where family friendly is how we roll here. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Behind you, I see two books.
Okay.
The one that's kind of hidden there is Love Me Too.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that book and maybe one of the most important spiritual takeaways from that?
So this is my book, Love Me Too, and actually has an image of me taped as a child. That the irony was that I make my living talking is that my family did not always love that I would talk. My mother would call it diarrhea of the mouth, but I just came out with things to say. And so with the Me Too movement that is advocating that if we have been a victim, we are then damaged. And I find that insulting because one, not only is that a denial of the atonement of Jesus Christ, but every single person will have things they have to overcome and that are difficult. And just to say, because of the actions of other people, you were therefore damaged. That's objectifying us. That's making us like a thing, right? Instead of what we really are, creations of a loving God who made us unique and divine and allows things to happen that are hard because then we get to learn about ourselves and our capacity. So,
and we don't have to carry that with us through the rest of our life as like rocks or bricks that are going to hold us down.
Yeah. I was molested from 2.5 to 14 by a family friend that was an adopted uncle. And I was taught to respect and revere him because he was an adopted uncle and gave my family money. And of course, my parents didn't know that that's what he was doing. And I give my parents a lot of credit that he did, that they backed me up by not inviting him over anymore. But it's interesting because my grandmother had a theory about who I was. And I'm 5'9". I was 5'9" at 13. I didn't have all of my front teeth. And I was a little awkward. And again, we talked about the diarrhea of the mouth. And I just had all of this personality. I didn't know what to do with it. And so grandma always let me know that I was very ugly and that I needed to moderate my expectations about my life. It's okay. I turned out fine. But as a young girl, she's telling me I'm ugly And on the other side, the man that chose to molest me, notice I didn't say my abuser, the man that chose to molest me, he has responsibility for his choices and actions. I don't have to carry those forever.
Yep.
He was telling me I was so beautiful he couldn't help myself. Somebody was lying. I'm not so repulsive and I'm not so beautiful, right? Like somebody's telling a lie here. But because I wasn't being raised in a home that was telling me about this loving God that cared about me and my divine worth, I was bouncing between these two ideas, thinking that what you could see was what gave me value. And one day, and this kind of is kind of a big story, but people find a lot of hope from it. I'm about 9 years old, and my brother, who was participating in the drug culture, he too was an entrepreneur. He had a business around that. So proud. Entrepreneurialism goes way back in the family. So he had some friends, and they were getting together, and they were partaking of their goods. And I approached the area.
Partaking of the inventory.
And partaking of the inventory. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was in the area, and they all just kind of looked at me, and I knew I had to get out of there. Now, looking back, I can know that I was being given a get out of here feeling from the Holy Ghost, but I didn't know what that was yet. I felt like life did not have meaning and I did not have value. And it was the only value I had was if I could get approval from grandma and people that agreed with grandma or this man that was molesting me, because I thought that was love. But I also knew that what was about to happen to me with these boys would not be a profession of love as this man said it was. My distorted view of what was kindness and love are completely messed up. So I run up into these woods near our home, and it was, just up this hill, and I'd been through these little patch of trees so many times that the little trails through it were second nature to me. So even in the semi-darkness, I'm able to navigate through here. And then I hear on the other side of these trees are more of the boys or men. They're teenagers, but they're bigger than I am because I'm 9-10 years old. And I cower in fear, just petrified of what's going to happen. And I had been hit enough times that I was not excited about this. And I cowered down, and I do not know why I did this, but I said, "Dear God, dear God, dear God, dear God." And one of the boys whips past me saying, "I can't see her." And I'm sitting there going, I was verbalizing, preparing myself for something hideous. There's no way he couldn't have at least heard me in my panting of fear. And he ran right by me. And I remember just going, why? And it was in that moment that I realized that something powerful had seen me. Something bigger than me had protected me. And we call that God.
Yeah. Our God is a God of miracles, for sure.
And that knowledge was the moment that I knew that there was a God. And it's not like this beautiful little moment that I hope my children got of just, let's talk to God and let's pray. And that's how I hope my children discovered that. It was an ugly moment, but that contrast and the power of that started to reveal to me this lie that I was living in. I'm not so beautiful or so ugly. That there were lies about me because they were conflicting with what I discovered in that moment, that I was seen by God. And that changed everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure God loves it when we turn to him in those trials, in those really difficult moments. Because then he has a chance to step in for us. And then we know it's him that's stepping in.
Absolutely. And I knew that there, that people talked about this, but the nature of God that had been shown to me through people was a God of shame and a God of judgment. But if God was judging me or didn't love me or care about me, why did he protect me in the woods that day?
Yeah. Yeah, you are definitely a child of God who loves you, beyond imagination. And scriptures teach us that God is love. I'm so sorry you had to go through that horrible situation. And I'm so grateful that God was there for you to protect you.
Well, at this point in my life, it was absolutely formative to who I was, but it's why I believe is because it's not just this soft little gentle thing. And it's made me be very thankful for hard times because the contrast reveals to us something that we call the atonement, right? Now, at 9 years old, I hadn't really done anything that I needed to be ashamed of. Now, I thought what the man was choosing to do to my body was something I should feel shame for. But I know that to not be true. So I had a lot of things I had to work through. But as I discovered the goodness and the light and the joy that came to my heart that I wish you could just give to every, every other person, right? I wish I could be like, no, really, you need to know this, which is a lot of why I do what I do, is because when we've gone through abuse, we don't understand the nature of God because people have hijacked the nature of God and presented to us, a God that is not the real God. It's the cheap copy. It's Satan.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you for sharing that story. Can you pull down your other book for us, The How to Embrace Your Inner Hotness, and tell us a little bit about that and how that impacts your faith?
So this book actually was a precursor to the book I'm working on now, which is about I'll save that for a minute, but it's precursor to that. And I'm like, I can't explain the story of this until I explain how I got there. What character traits get you to a place that can be resilient, that can overcome difficulty? And because I've been in the beauty industry since I was 16 years old, obviously this beauty language was coming out, right? Of being able to be like, what makes you hot? What makes you thriving? What makes you beautiful? And playing on my grandma and these ideas that every woman that feels like she's an ugly duckling when really she's meant to be a swan, but we're just being told we're ugly ducklings. And we look at the beauty industry and all those magazines. Now, I didn't have all of my teeth, and I noticed that all models have their teeth, all of them. Like it's a universal thing. And so that's a exaggerated example of what every woman feels, because we'll see something that they have that we don't have. And the truth is, as Brooke Shields said, who was a sex icon of the 80s, I wished I looked as good as Brooke Shields. And this is before the technology they have to airbrush. This is when you could just use posing and things. So we women are comparing ourselves to this unrealistic standard. And so my book, How to Embrace Your Inner Hotness, is a how-to book to feel confident, to feel truly beautiful. And I have a friend that when she was reading it, she goes, Lita, are you aware that you put in the first principles of the gospel? Because I put in about faith. I put in about being able to feel God's love. And I was like, oh, did I do that? Because I write my books for, anyone, but to bring them to principles of truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That concept of self-worth, goes back to the great commandment, right? Love God and love ourselves, right? And it's a very important principle. And with social media and with everything that kids and the rest of us are facing today, that is sure a big issue that's leading to a lot of anxiety and depression and suicide and
Right.
and a lot of other big issues.
And that's very much what the book is about, is an how-to guide to see your individual worth, your individual value. And I'm not using our religious language to do that. I use hotness, because there's two different kinds of heat we can put out as individuals. We can put out a wildfire that burns out of control and it's going to get a lot of attention. Or in contrast, we can be a campfire that per molecule is hotter than a wildfire. But a campfire is able to give sustenance, protection, warmth, and you can make s'mores around a campfire, which is chocolate,
Yeah.
which just makes the whole world go round. Yeah.
Yeah, s'mores do help make the world go
Chocolate
round.
specifically. Yeah. Chocolate with anything is really just how it should be.
I'm a dad of 3 daughters, and my wife and daughters would definitely agree with that statement.
Yeah, I have chocolate within arm's reach right now. So
If you need to take a break, we can pause.
No, that's good. I'm gonna be able to make it through. And I'm doing sugar-free chocolate now, which is a real downside, but I'm healthier.
Is there a story from that book related to faith and testimony that you would like to share?
Absolutely. So when I was 15 years old, we moved to a new town, and the town was called Blanding, as in without flavor. It's in southern Utah. And I was thinking, okay, this is a chance for me because nobody knows what an idiot I am down here. So I can go down here and I can pretend like I'm cooler, right? Now, there's no makeup that has changed, no wardrobe outfit, no Disney team to help me in this transition. And I mentioned how I don't have all of my teeth. From 9 to 21, you evidently have to have all of your teeth to serve a mission for our church. Big surprise. You have to have all your teeth. But so I didn't have teeth till I was an adult and I could pay for them myself. But again, very awkward. And I'm 5'9", and I am very shy. And I stood up in front of the classroom and I introduced myself, and everyone started laughing. And I'm like, wow, my plan of being able to make it in Blanding is not going well. And I mean, when I say everyone laughed, I mean, people were walking through the halls the rest of that day, pointing at me and saying my name and laughing. And I get it. Lita is a unique name. Not everyone has it. It's actually a Black girl Swahili name. So maybe that was just really a lot to take in. And as I'm walking home, I realized why they were laughing, because I had said my full name and my last name was Mon. So my name together was Lita Mon.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was engaged to a guy. His last name was Strong, so it would have been Lita Mon Strong. This was years later. Mr. Louder, when he proposed, he said, I think I would have been Lita Mon Louder. But again, I don't know then at 15 years old how the story is going to come out in my life. And I'm laying there that night. My mother said we could just go to school tomorrow as Francis, which is after my grandfather. And that's not going to give a sturdy girl issues to go by what she perceives as a boy name. And I'm laying in bed that night. And again, I've discovered the nature of God around 9. And I started doing some like talking to that, and I knew it was called prayer. But that night, my prayer did not involve any reverent language. I was using some pretty harsh trucker kid language in talking to God, because I was really mad at the little top of the trailer that was my room area. And I knew that my life was pretty pitiful, and I had been abused by a lot of people. And not only had all these bad things happen to me, and I had the scars and the hurts of my soul and my body to have those, but now to find out that I am named a porn star name, like seriously, like this is terrible that I'm named Lita Mon. And I was just letting God have it. And I always like to pause when I tell this story to the youth, is it's okay that I was not using appropriate language with God, because God can take it. The important thing is I was talking to God.
Yeah.
And I had this moment in the top of that little 30-foot trailer there by the stump that hit me so hard. It was like a physical force on my chest that said, you need to practice a new way of thinking about you. And this line, everyone in this room loves you. So I just learned 3 lessons in 1 second. 1, he didn't like it. God did not like me talking as I was. Ripping on myself, whining, being the victim. He didn't like that. Right? That's what I was doing. I was having a really awesome pity party and towing God off in the process. And the second thing was I was practicing really negative talk. And then I was given what I now know to be my first affirmation. Everyone in this room loves you. So I said that to myself. Everyone in this room loves you. Everyone in this room loves you. Now, the irony is I was in a room, technically a room, all by myself. And that was not a true statement. I did not love me yet. But I started repeating that. Everyone in this room loves you. Everyone in this room loves you. And as I was getting ready the next morning, I now call it vanity prayers, where, I'm getting ready and I'm like, everyone in this room loves you. Everyone in this room loves you. And as I approached the school the next day, I was thinking, I was like, wait, how does the most loved girl in the school would act? Would she walk in with her, mouth held to hide her teeth, or with her head down? No, she's going to hold her head up And when people were like, "Hey, Lita Mon," I'd be like, and I walked in and I forgot to cover up my teeth. And I just acted like it was awesome because, of course, Lita Mon's awesome. Because I could also look at it that Lita Mon's a born leader, right? And 2 weeks later, I was voted freshman spirit queen. I still didn't have my teeth. I still was wearing boys' clothes when it wasn't cool. And I still didn't know what to do with all my hair. But I had transformed as I had transformed what I was thinking and saying to myself. It opened up a dialogue with God that I knew I could take whatever to him and he would give me answers, sometimes with force. And I found over the years that when I think negatively, when I'm really in the pit of despair, for the Princess Bride fans out there, that is when God answers me with the most force. Stop it. Do not do that to my daughter.
And I think an important piece of that too is you listened and you did something with that information. You changed and you acted differently and you tried to feel differently and talk to yourself differently because of that. And your willingness to do something with the inspiration made a greater chance for God to give you the inspiration. The more willing we are to do something with it, the more willing he is to give it.
Absolutely. The song "I'm a Child of God" used to just drive me nuts because I didn't feel that I'd been born with kind parents. I didn't feel a lot of the things, but if you look at what that song is really saying, it's an affirmation. It's the name of God, and it's a prayer. I am a child of God. So whatever happens to us before we got here, that truth is irrevocable. That we are children of God. And every time we say, "I am," and then we put something what I call poopy after it, we're affirming Satan's view of us, or what Satan wants to have us see ourselves as, instead of what I call he who was awesome, who wants everyone to be awesome instead of stinky poopy like Satan does. He who is awesome wants us to feel great about ourselves. And
I love that title for him. That's great.
right. And Satan, he who is poopy, wants us to sit in our own poop, the poop of the things that we have taken in and our body has rejected. He wants us to sit in it. But God wants us to be awesome. And man, my decision to lean into the gospel of Christ, I can trace every single thing that I love in my life because I didn't have that back to, I decided to pray. I decided to pay tithing. Each little moment of my testimony and how it is directly correlated to all the good things. My life is awesome.
So you talk about this decision to follow Jesus Christ. Can you tell me about when you made that decision and that process in your life?
Well, the first acknowledgement was that there was a God. Then that same week that I found out that I was Lita Mon, Brother Bodley, I would love to be able to find Brother Bodley. If anyone knows who was teaching seminary in Blanding, Utah, I would love to be able to tell Brother Bodley because I've shared this story so many times. But he gave us a challenge to read our scriptures. Now, the only reason I was even in seminary was because Rita DeBry, the next door neighbor, leaned into that awkward family and was a mentor to me, was an inspiration to me. And she had all of the good things in her life. And I was like, I want that life. So Brother Bodley, though, held up the scriptures and he was sweaty and he was bodily. He had a body. And so he was not cool with his little shirt, not quite buttoned around the tummy, but he held up these scriptures with all this declaration of passion, trying to get these young teenagers excited. And he said two things, one of which made us excited. The first thing he said was, "I promise you, if you will read this book, it will change your life." And I'm sitting there. I'm a year out from the man not molesting me. The state has removed my brother from our home for beating me up. My parents are not being together. And there's a lot of drama in my life. And I'm thinking, I could use a change. But I didn't get excited outwardly. I'm just kind of having this thought like, I could use a change. And I know that was the Spirit being like, yeah, you could. And then he said the thing that got everyone excited, that everyone who read their scriptures that week would get to come to a pizza party. And the class was very excited about that. And I, a hungry child, was very excited about that. The only food I could count on growing up was school lunch. And I earned it myself by working in the lunchroom or jobs that I had that, to ironing jobs or house cleaning jobs or whatever. So I really wanted to go to this pizza party. So I started reading the scriptures, and it was like this little force field got stronger and stronger around me. And I could hear the yelling and the dysfunction and the craziness of my childhood home. But the more I read, the stronger that force field got, and that it almost felt like I was removed from that. And more importantly is I was learning to understand what the voice of God sounded like. Because I'd been taught it was a God of shame and judgment. But that's not the God that I discovered in the Book of Mormon, in the Bible. Right? This is a different God than what they're telling me about. And so when I would have a thought come to my head, I was able to differentiate if this is something I should reject, like I would reject poop from he who is Satan, or something that was reflective of the voice of God and the nature of God, and that was from God.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how has that affected you today? As you've grown to become an adult, how have you continued to develop in your ability to hear the word of God? How has that changed for you, and how has that impacted your life?
Well, for those who went to primary, because I've taught primary, I know what those lessons are now. It's the same: read your scriptures, say your prayers, go to church. Read your scriptures, say your prayers, go to church, right? Church is the vehicle that we're using to help us to be accountable to something bigger than ourselves. Because just on my own, we can go off into all kinds of things. But by being able to sit in the church each week and to renew those covenants and the belief in that, but the simple things, I know, wouldn't it be great if we all just had an angel come down to us and give us right? But for me, it was the biggest angel moment I got was being protected in the woods that day.
Yeah.
Then by just rinsing and repeating and doing it, and I leaned very much upon good neighbors. We moved back to Provo, Utah after that year in Blanding. And oh man, did I have good neighbors. We only lived in Blanding for 1 year. Such good neighbors that lived good lives. And I would look at them and go, okay, I want that contrast. But they were just doing the simple things. I was cleaning their houses. They were reading their scriptures. You'd see them out. I'd have to dust around them. Right? And they weren't dusty. They were saying their prayers because when it was time to eat, which is so exciting for me, I was so excited about eating time. I'd smell that food cooking as I'd be cleaning because there's no food at my house. We pick the bugs out of the food. I would be so excited, and they would pray. And so it reinforced into me the value of those simple things.
Yeah.
And I kept doing those things, and my life keeps being awesome. Doesn't mean hard things haven't happened, because they have. But by leaning on what I know to be the nature of God, at this point, why would I not want to be with God?
Yeah. You'd proved it. You'd seen the fruits, tasted the fruits, and you liked it, and you wanted more of it. And why would you want anything else?
In fact, when they talk about the iron rod story, right? And there's the people who hold onto the rod, right? But then they talk about the people that cling, and I envision the clinging like with 3 to 4 limbs on there, and they're like moving their way up the rod. That was me. There is nothing wrong with that. I wanted so desperately what this was because I already knew the contrast.
Yeah.
I lived in a home of a mom who was angry with God. And we all paid a price for it. And I don't hate my mother. I have pity for my mother. But the consequences of her turning away are going to ripple through generations because I have 2 siblings that lost their agency, as you could put it, to drugs, testing the inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. You saw the other side, and you've seen the other side without God. And now you've seen the side with God. and you choose the side with God. Your life is better with it. It's who
Yeah.
you want to be.
And it doesn't, I think people so often want it to be these big miraculous stories, right? And yeah, I told a good story. But what changed me was tasting of that fruit, like you say, putting an experiment upon the word, just doing those little things every day. And that takes a very conscious choice, like just like the exercise of vanity prayers, that when I look in the mirror and I saw my 82 stitches, I could focus in on those, the missing teeth. I could focus in on the thing I don't like, or I can focus in on, look at those radiant eyes, right? Look,
Yeah.
look at that smile. Look at my chin. I mean, this is an attractive, curvy chin that all the people in my dad's side of the family have. And those, like Mormon pioneers back in the day, because the little ones died. So we're big and sturdy people, right? Like, you can focus in on the thing you don't like, or you can focus in on the thing you do like. And the thing that we shouldn't like or have a taste for is despair and shame. Because if you know where those come from, why would you keep licking that?
Yeah.
Versus the taste of the gospel, the goodness of the fruits of that, the welcoming and the love of Christ, that no matter what has happened to us, I can be amazing in this life right now. I do not have to be the battered, refuse child that every statistic says I should not be okay.
Yeah. You've told us about some huge challenges that you went through in your childhood. You've told us that you got your teeth fixed when you were 21 and that you couldn't go on a mission without your teeth. Does that mean you served a mission?
I did. I
Yeah.
served among the deaf. So the irony is I can do all this while not talking. Which I thought the one thing I had that was going for me when I was putting in my mission papers is I'd figured out that I was a good communicator. And
And then
so,
they took that away.
and they took that away. And I was so like, what are you talking about? And I was giving up a fiance and, like this cool job of being a tour guide in Alaska. So I'm like, what, you're not interested in my ability to talk? And so I'm like, okay, it says to lose ourselves, right? So maybe God wasn't interested in what I thought I had to bring to the table. And the mission was the first time that I got to live in a home where everybody in those four walls was trying to live the gospel. And it was revelatory to me. It was like, not just getting to visit other people's homes, but to wake up.
Yep.
Can you hear that bliss?
Yeah.
Right?
And helped you see what you wanted for the rest of your life.
And again, back to the habits. Just wanting something, just being, I declare, I believe, is not enough. We have to have drips by little drips of water, little drips of oil, if we want to use the 10 virgins analogy. We need those little teeny drips in our lives. And I had that big moment in the woods. I had that big moment at 15 being told to practice something else. I needed to practice. Like, the gospel of Christ is a practice to come closer to God. It is step by step. And our prayers and our scripture study have what been my secret weapon. And what's so cool is the most simple intellect among us can access them. Just the act of opening up the scriptures, I believe, if you just read 3 words, that would be enough. Just the act of doing it, God is able to bless you. And that habit becomes a muscle memory with these amazing bodies that we have to do that. It's like working out, right? Like, I know in my brain that I need to work out, but I have to do it every day. Like, I have to eat the right kinds of food for my body every day. Like, that's so annoying. Why can't I just live in the best buffet on the best cruise ship every day? That's not life. And that's not how we become better. It's not how we become closer to God.
The greatest things in our lives are on the other side of hard, right? It takes discipline. It takes learning to make choices to follow those laws and then reap the benefits of those laws. symbols that those are that point us back towards God, even health.
So I want to tell you another story because it's such a good story.
Yes, please.
So I hinted at, and you kind of brought this up, but I hinted at that there have been other challenges in my adult life because, wouldn't it be great if we just got married to the right person and then everything was perfect from there on out? That's not a real thing. The happiness in life is that if the person you marry is not your life challenge, like that's like the thumbs up plus, right? So I did marry the guy that's the thumbs up plus. He is not my challenge in life. He is a covenant keeper. Nathan, my husband, let's not be confusing because you're Nathan. I call my husband Lover Man on social media.
Yeah, don't call me Lover Man.
I'm not going to call you Lover Man. So when I say Lover Man, everyone knows I'm referring to not the host of the show, but my husband, boyfriend that I've been married to for 27 years. My husband, Lover Man's middle name could be Diligence. That is my husband. And because of what I just shared with you, I sought after diligence in my dating. Very much so. If I noted that a young man that I would be dating, because I got my teeth fixed and men found me very attractive, was if they were not diligent about the little things in the gospel, I was not interested in risking my eternal well-being with somebody who did not take this seriously. You all know how I got there because of where I came from. So anyway, we get married, we have several miscarriages, life has that sadness, but I finally gotten 2 children after 9 pregnancies. And my husband, we're here in Daybreak, Utah. It's basically white picket fence. It's adorable. Everything is perfect. And then my husband, after I put him through law school, gets hit by a bus.
Oh no.
So after, then I'm worried is he going to live? Did his brains get damaged? Well, don't worry, because before we could really calm down from all of that, within 11 months, my husband was out for an 100-mile bike ride. And then one weekend, the next weekend, 40. And so, he was probably a little dehydrated and he was irritating me because I had a party that night. And I was introducing friends that were not of our faith to other friends who were of our faith. So it wasn't just me that was the cool member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And my husband was not being clear about how he felt. And he was being really annoying because, I've been pregnant 9 times at this point. So I'm like, buck up when you have a cold, right? And I walk out of the room and the Spirit kind of says, is that how you want to talk to your husband? And I was like, no. So I went back in and I said, honey, I'm sorry. I just this party and I want to have it go. And he's like, it's okay. He goes, maybe after the party, you could take me if I still don't feel well. I think I'm dehydrated, take me to the hospital and I, put some fluids in him. And I'm like, I gave you Pedialyte. Like, what more do you need? But okay. So after the party, which was a success with my little cake that had the blueberries and the strawberries, I mean, like I'm super next level. We take him to the hospital and I know we're going to be there a long time because I used to be a medical interpreter for the deaf and my husband is not a priority. And he throws up in this thing, which, I'm not completely heartless wife. I did hold his bucket for him and I rubbed his back and then he fell into my arms and I was like, Lover Man. I actually said his name, but I didn't want it to be confusing. Right. So I said, Lover Man. Because the reason I was upset with him was because I have a degenerative hip from all of the miscarriages. I had 7 at that point. And I was like, I needed time to kind of gird my muscles around that degenerative joint. And he's just being melodramatic, falling in my arms. I had arms that came up behind me, lifted me up from the pain of my husband's dead weight and said in my ear, you and the children will be fine. Oh, he first said, he's dead. You and the children will be fine, which I really doubted that part. If he's dead, how are we going to be okay? This is my person. He's dead. You and the children will be fine. You have made covenants. And at the word covenants, there was a peace that, as they say, surpasseth understanding, that I was completely calm. Now, I'm the person when I go to the temple, anyone listening might be really surprised to hear that there is some ADD that ripples through my body. I am not the person who sits at the temple and is like, oh, this is so peaceful and great. I'm like, oh, it's so quiet. You have to be. Like, this is hard for me. But yet my soul at the word covenants was complete and utter calm. And that is the moment that every payday of everything that I had ever tried to do, holding and clinging to this gospel, that I didn't believe it anymore. I knew it.
Yeah.
Because I am now a witness that we are more than what we realize. When we have these spiritual moments, which I am not unique in this, and we turn from them, that is not going to go well for us. I now know that there is a God who loves me, learned that wants me to learn from him, did that with the scriptures and the prayer, right? And now in this terrible moment, he's telling me that the covenants I've made in the temple are enough that I'm going to be okay with my husband dead in my arms. Then from the corner of the room, I see a silvery light. It came into my husband and he reanimated. My husband came back to life. He had moderate severe heart damage from that. And I'm skipping all the medical stuff that happened. Moderate severe heart damage from that. 2.5 months later, we're in the doctor's office again, and we're being informed how my husband has less than 5 years to live because of all this heart damage. And we're seeing how much of the stunned area has joined the dead area, as it is with how much dead tissue from those heart attacks he was having throughout that day that I was being unsympathetic. The man cold is real, ladies, sometimes. Okay. So the consequences of that, he had less than 5 years to live. So now if the stunned area has joined the dead, do I have less than 5 years? And I have I have a 3 and 5-year-old at home. And my parents, who are children financially and emotionally, are living in my basement, and we're financially taking care of them. So how am I, who at that time was a makeup salesman and a makeup artist, going to support my family? And the lady kind of contracts and looks weird. And I read body language because I'm an interpreter for the deaf. And I'm like, okay, I need to get prepared. By the way, I'm pregnant at this point. Of course, let's just make it more dramatic. And we go into this room that they take us in. There's all these doctors, which I knew from experience that the more doctors that are in there, the worse the news.
Yeah.
And we've got like 15 doctors with standing room only. And my husband and I sitting there like objects at the front of the room. And they're pulling out these medical charts. And they're like, this is the medical chart that over 27 doctors have looked at of the dead heart tissue. And we're like, yeah, this is like the 100th time it's been shown to us. We don't really like that chart. And they said, and now this is your husband's heart. No blockage, no dead tissue. Once you have dead brain, eye, or heart tissue, it never comes back. It is a provable miracle. And that for some reason, my lover man's heart was repaired. Why did I get that miracle? It's not because I'm so good. There's a lot of good people that don't get those miracles. But I did that day. And my children have gotten to have their father. And that was 17 years ago. And my husband hasn't had any more heart attacks. But he should not be here. And he is. And I could prove it to a cardiologist. Miracles happen.
And obviously God thinks he should be here.
I am so glad about that because I really like him a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that amazing story. Wow.
Well, thank you for creating a platform in which I could. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being here today. In conclusion, Lita, why do you believe?
I believe because in my darkest moments, there has been a tender, soft presence that has always called me to him. The atonement of Jesus Christ is for anything that is bigger than us. And we all have had things that are bigger than us. If you gave me more time, I'd be telling more awesome stories of how God has blessed me. And though my life has not always been easy, it has given me the capacity to witness that the light and the joy of living with Christ is greater and better than the darkness of living without him. I don't just believe, I know, and I am so thankful that he was there for me in my dark days, so I can be here and to testify to your listeners. And I hope that it's stirred something in them of those remembrance of those quiet little moments, and to spur them to do the little things, open up the scriptures, say your prayers. God can take it, and he loves us, and he wants to hear from us.
I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your stories of faith and testimony.
Thank you for having me, Nathan.